Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video. I just finished filming another video, did a quick wardrobe change, and now I'm about to film another one because I got really behind. So today I'm going to talk about how my mental health has changed since becoming a mom. I've just written a blog post about this, and by the time this video comes out it should be live. So becoming a mom has changed my mental health quite a bit. I wouldn't say it has made it any worse or any better. It's just kind of shifted a little bit the way my thoughts are and what it is that causes me anxiety versus what doesn't. Same with depression. And there's been a few little added things as well. So I'm going to talk about them in different sections. Okay, so the first section I'm going to talk about is anxiety. And anxiety is very common among mothers. And that is something I addressed in the video I just finished filming, responding to an ignorant mother-in-law. You can check that out right here. So yes, it's common. I was not expecting mine to go away by any means. I was actually expecting it to get worse. So before giving birth, a lot of my anxiety was triggered by medical things, needles, procedures. Blood didn't weird me out so much, but just I don't know, there was just something weird about hospitals to me. Even going into a hospital when I wasn't a patient just got my hackles up a little bit. It just made me nervous. I didn't even like going to the doctor's office, even if I was just getting a prescription refill. It got really bad. I started taking medication, I did therapy, and I did get a lot better with those, but it was still my main thing, still something that caused me a lot of anxiety, along with other things. Now, with all that being said, obviously, having a baby would expose me to a lot of the things that cause me anxiety. And that was something that was on my mind a lot during my pregnancy. However, my anxiety while I was pregnant about those things sort of went away. It was weird. And I actually wrote a blog post about that a little while ago, which I will link in the description. And I'll also link the blog post of this topic specifically in the description too. When we got to the hospital, I was really anxious at that point about having to have an IV put in, and I was not planning on an epidural because the idea weirded me out. Just, ugh. The whole experience, the overnight stay at the hospital, having to get an epidural, the extreme pain, the IV, everything, was an exposure therapy on the most intense level. And I would say now, these things still cause me some anxiety. I still have some anxiety around them, but having been through what I went through, I'm a lot better thinking about it now. Just personally knowing I can handle it and knowing that, I survived makes it a lot better. So in that case, my anxiety has gone down quite a bit. However, I have a baby now, and like a lot of other moms, I have a ton of anxiety around my baby. I'm worried about things happening to her a little more than I think is probably normal. When I'm carrying her down the stairs, I sometimes worry like, oh, is she gonna lunge out of my arms? What if I drop her and I hold her even tighter? Sometimes I worry about what if while she's trying to stand, because that's what she's working on right now, which is really exciting, but when she works on it, I'm thinking like, all right, what can she hit her head on if she falls? And what if she gets a concussion? There was one incident, a man was in a car at a stop sign. He was stopped, so I started walking, but he was looking the opposite way. And I guess when he saw that the car that was coming this way passed, he thought, I can go now without looking back this way. And he started driving. I banged on the hood of his car, and he stopped. Luckily, he was going slowly. And getting the thought of, oh my God, what if he just peeled off? He would have hit the stroller. And that lasted with me for so long. So there was that. The fear of SIDS was also a big thing. It got better when she turned 6 months old because I know the rate of that happening significantly decreases at 6 months. But I was constantly looking at the monitor, watching her belly, making sure she was breathing. There have been times where I've gone in for her 10:30 feeding, and I go to get her out of the crib and she's so still, and I have that moment where my heart just drops and I'm like, she's not breathing. And then the second I touch her, she moves and is just fine. She's fine. Like, So those are my new anxieties, and I know as she gets older I will have even more new anxieties about her going to school, about the friends she has, if she goes out with her friends at night. I don't even want to think about all this stuff right now. So let's just keep in mind my baby's almost 1 year old, and I'm just going to think about my little tiny baby. So that's my anxiety. The next thing I'll talk about is depression. I've dealt with depression for most of my life, and I think it stems from the fact that I was bullied in elementary school. It's a subject I don't like to talk about still. It's something I might talk about eventually. I am passionate about ending bullying because of how badly it affected me, but it's also still something really painful for me to talk about, and I very rarely do. I like to just pretend it didn't happen. And the sad thing is it wasn't as bad as some of the stories I've heard, but anyway, let's move past that. I have always dealt with this feeling of not being loved, not being liked, feeling like people are just putting up with me, feeling like if something were to happen to me, it wouldn't matter, people would be fine. I know my husband loves me, logically, I know that, but I also feel like if something happened to me, he'd be fine, he'd grieve for a while, and then he'd be able to move on with his life and probably have a better life not having to deal with me. I was always feeling really worthless, like I had nothing to offer the world, like I was kind of a waste of space. Since having Cassidy though, I know she loves me, and like there's no thing in my mind that makes me believe otherwise. With everyone else though, I have this belief in the back of my head saying they have to love you, that's why. And it's hard, but with Cassidy, being the only one who was able to feed her for a while and being the person she finds the most comfort in has been amazing. Knowing that Cassidy truly needs me, truly loves me, and she depends on me for so much made me feel not worthless anymore, made me feel needed, and made me feel like if something happened to me, there is someone who would really, really suffer, and that I need to be around for her. Now, on the flip side of that, I do have kind of a new way depression is affecting me. And I know a lot of moms deal with this one too, and that is mom guilt and just general sadness. So not really thinking about the beginning, the newborn stage, the sleep deprivation really was not helpful. I had major baby blues. But setting that part aside, I am constantly wondering if I am doing a good job. Cassidy is amazing. She is so sweet, so beautiful. She's the best baby. I'm not biased at all, I promise. And I sometimes think she deserves a better mom than me. And I mean, I know logically, no, she deserves the mom who grew her and who fed her and made her, but I just feel she's so amazing. She deserves a mom that doesn't, have these issues, someone who doesn't have days where they're just so tired and maybe don't spend as much time one-on-one with her as she would like. And sometimes I worry, am I giving her enough attention? Am I giving her the right foods? Am I feeding her enough? Am I just doing a good enough job that she deserves? I also often think about how fast she's growing, and while it's wonderful and I love watching her grow and the new things she does every day is so just heartwarming, I also think she's growing so fast and the newborn stage was over before I knew it, and I wonder if I even really took it all in enough and appreciated it when it was here. And I think every stage I'm going to have these feelings of sadness that they're over, and wondering if I did take them in and soak it all up. And I know it's counterintuitive to think about the past, because then you miss the present, and then in the future you think about it, and it's a vicious cycle. So I'm trying really hard right now to just live in the moment with her and appreciate every little thing she does right now, even on days where she is being a little fussy pants, which she's being today real bad. So I'm wondering if there are some teeth coming in, because she's been a fussy little girl today. So those are my two mental illnesses that I've always been really open about and that I have. The next category, however, is possible PTSD with a question mark. I've always had an inkling that I have a little bit of PTSD just from a really bad work environment in the past. It's something that I just haven't really felt that I need to talk to anyone about or get help for. It's something that doesn't affect me unless I'm thinking about that time in my life. So I've always ignored it and just been like, I might have it, but whatever. I'm just gonna pretend it's not there. Which I know isn't smart, and I don't recommend anyone do that. However, I think I need help now. I think I might have a little case of PTSD from the childbirth because it was really hard. And I feel so stupid because compared to a lot of birth stories I've heard, it wasn't nearly as traumatic as it could have been. But it's just, I don't know. So basically what's been happening lately is TMI for the guys. If they don't want to hear about periods, skip the next couple minutes, but you know, periods are normal. But since my period has returned, I think it returned around 5 months postpartum, I've had much heavier cramping than I ever did before. That being said, before I was on the pill, I don't really want to go back on the pill. Those cramps, they feel very similar to labor contractions, and that makes sense because it's basically the same muscles doing the same thing. It's just significantly less intense. They feel similar enough though that I sometimes get reminded of being in labor and I almost have flashbacks, and suddenly, like, when I'm wrapped up in it, it's like I'm there again and I'm feeling just as helpless and vulnerable as I was feeling at that time. So that's been really tough. And sometimes when I think about the day Cassidy was born, I get really hung up on a few things that really bothered me. I feel like it's in the last few months or so, it's really been coming back to me and I'm thinking a lot about it, and I can't stop thinking about this one nurse who was just not good. The nurse I had, my main nurse, through the whole thing up until while I was pushing when her shift ended, she was wonderful, amazing, supportive. Then this new nurse came in, and this woman made it sound like I was doing everything wrong. She was mentioning things over and over again to a point where it was just stressing me out. When my water had broken, there was meconium in it, which is basically baby's first poop. You prefer if they not have that until after they're born, but sometimes they do it while they're still inside. And the problem with that is then they can inhale some of that and it can get in their lungs, which your baby's most likely going to be fine if that happens. Don't freak out, but it's possible they'll need help to breathe when they are born, and Cassidy was one of those babies. When she was eventually born, they had to whisk her away and use a CPAP machine on her, which was very scary. But while we were pushing and my contractions were slowing down, and this woman just kept mentioning over and over again, she has meconium, there's meconium, we have to get her out, there's meconium, her heart rate's decreasing. She was being so alarmist, and just the way she was talking to me, it was like, you're not pushing hard enough, you're not doing a good enough job, your contractions are slowing down and somehow it's your fault. And I know there was a lot of encouragement in that room. My doula and my husband were being very encouraging. The other doctors and nurses were also, but this nurse's voice was drowning them all out. Thinking back, I'm just so mad at myself that I didn't advocate for myself better and ask for a new nurse or tell her off. Because, like, she even kept saying, I don't know why you started pushing so soon, you shouldn't have started pushing yet. It's like, the nurse told me to start pushing. And it's like, why are you mentioning this 5-6 times? I've already started pushing. We can't go back in time. Why do you keep bringing this up? So when I think about that day, I get really upset about how all of that happened. I really, really just wish I would have told her to get out. But I was scared that, you know, if they couldn't have a new nurse come in, if I was stuck with her, then she'd be worse. And I didn't really know how to like talk to just my doula and husband because there were so many medical staff around. It's just something I wish I had been more ballsy about. And the other reason I think I might have some PTSD is now if I watch videos of people being in labor or giving birth, if I hear in detail about birth stories, I get a little like antsy. I think about my experience and it just reignites the helplessness I felt, the vulnerability, the lack of being good at it. And it really, really hit me when I was watching a YouTube channel that I really love, who they were finally having their IVF rainbow baby after 8 years of infertility. I'll leave their channel in the description below. It's Bill and Alex. And her labor was a freaking nightmare. Definitely worse than mine. And it lasted a heck of a lot longer than mine. But watching her go through it, her having an epidural she didn't want, reminded me about how I didn't want one. I don't know, watching her go through it really brought it all back for me. I kept having to take breaks, take my headphones off and just like sit there and breathe and then go back into it. I really wanted to watch these videos. I've been watching their journey for years and I really wanted to see this baby being born, and I did get through it. But there were times where I was watching and like my arm would go numb and my head, I'd get all lightheaded and I'd need to take a break. So it took a while to get through their videos. They had a lot of labor videos because she was in labor for like 5 days. But yeah, so that's a new trigger for me, which I really don't want it to be, because before I had Cassidy, I was watching a ton of birth videos as exposure therapy for me. So I want to be able to do that again if we have another child, because at this point I don't think I can do it, because I can't help but think, if I'm this about the birth experience I did have, what if the next one's worse? Because sometimes I feel so stupid. I said this at the beginning, but like my birth experience was not that traumatic compared to a lot of people, and I feel like I don't deserve to be a giant baby about it and be so traumatized by it. And I know that's silly because everyone experiences things differently, but I just feel so pathetic for being traumatized by my birth experience, but I think I might be. So I am definitely going to reach out and get some help. And the last subject is empathy. I've always been an empathetic person. I've always felt for people, felt for animals. That's why I love animals, and I volunteer at the Humane Society. Not right now, but I feel like my level of empathy has just skyrocketed since becoming a mom. I don't know if other moms have experienced this. I'd love for you to let me know in the comments. But I can feel for people and creatures in such an intense way now. Like, instead of looking at like, this happened to that person, I'm so mad for them, I would project myself into them and I feel it happening to me, and I can feel how scared they must have been, or how mad they must have been, or sad. It's hard to explain. It's a hard time right now for empaths. It's what they call people who are really empathetic, because we take on other people's hurt and it's exhausting. And all the things COVID-19 has done, just because of my birth experience, knowing that there are so many pregnant women who cannot have their spouse with them and cannot have a doula with them for the whole thing. Like, I know they're letting spouses be there, but some hospitals are saying that the spouse has to wait and only come in when we're starting to push. Sometimes the spouse has to leave right after you give birth. I couldn't imagine not having my husband by my side the whole time, and I've been crying for people I don't know who have been having such horrible hardships over the last few months, and I feel so strongly for others, and I like that, to be honest. I think more people need to have more empathy, especially people in a position of power and privilege. Having more empathy for your fellow man or fellow earth being, because animals too, is a good thing. It's different for me now, and it's been hard to cope, but I'm gonna figure it out, because I think being an empathetic person is a good thing. It's just a really tough time right now if you are, but if more people were, the world would be a more peaceful, loving place, and that is all I can hope for. So to conclude, being a mother has changed me in so many ways, but I'm so happy that it has. It's been different, but I'm coping as best I can. And if you're a mother, I'd love for you to tell me how motherhood has changed your mental health or just changed you in general. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.